I have to kill my son. Girl, let that thought just marinate for a second. Not I have to fire my manager, not I have to return these sandals, they're the wrong shade of camel. No, I have to kill my son. Abraham's mind was racing, a full-blown panic attack on Camelback. Every step up that mountain, Moriah, which, by the way, we're renaming Mount Misery for this story, felt like a stake through his own heart. He could hear Isaac's breathing behind him, the rustle of the wood he was carrying on his own back. The boy was probably thinking about what they were going to sacrifice, maybe a stray goat, a lamb. He had no idea he was the main event. Abraham's hands were probably sweaty, his faith screaming one thing, while every single fatherly instinct he had was screaming another. This wasn't a test of strength. This was a test of a soul. And says if the story is already this wild at the start, you know the tea is only going to get hotter. So subscribe now because Bible Just, it is absolutely endless. Okay, so rewind. Because to understand the sheer mind-bending audacity of this moment, we have to go back. Way, way back. Before the mountain, before the sun, before the promise. We're talking about a man named Abram, living his best life in Ur, which was basically the ancient equivalent of a luxury metropolitan city. They had indoor plumbing, girl. He was set, comfortable, married to the gorgeous Sarai, a woman so stunningly beautiful, we're going to find out later that kings literally try to wife her up, which is a whole other saga of drama. So Abram is just minding his business, probably planning his next real estate investment, when God shows up. And not in a subtle, a still, small voice kind of way. Nah, this was a full-blown, life-altering, your entire existence is about to be upended kind of moment. God basically says, Abram, baby, pack your bags. You're moving. Abram's probably like, to where? The suburbs? A nice fixer-upper by the river? And God is like, I'll tell you when you get there. Sis, the audacity, the unmitigated gall of being told to leave your entire life, your family, your community, your favorite pottery barn, for a destination that is literally listed as TBD. And the promise? Oh, the promise was everything. God says, I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. Now, let's pause, because this sounds amazing, right? A great nation. But a nation is made of people, specifically descendants, kids, grandkids, a whole lineage. And here's the tea. Abram and Sarai were old. We're not talking 40 is the new 20 old. We're talking Genesis era old. Sarai's womb was, as the Bible so delicately puts it, closed. It wasn't just barren. It was retired. It had left the building. They had a 401k and a burial plot picked out, not a nursery. So Abram, being a human and not a robot, has to be thinking, a great nation. Sir, with all due respect, my wife and I need a miracle just to have one kid, let alone enough to fill a stadium. But here's the wild part. He went. The Bible doesn't record a bunch of backtalk. It just says, so Abram went as the Lord had told him. The faith on this man, he pulled a full-on trust fall with the creator of the universe. He left everything familiar for a promise that by every logical, biological, and rational standard was literally impossible. So they journey. They hit Canaan, there's a famine, they dip down to Egypt, which is where the first bit of messy drama goes down. Because Sarai is so fine, Abram gets scared some Egyptian king is going to kill him to take her, so he tells her, hey babe, you're my sister, okay? Just for a bit. And she's like, technically I am your half-sister, so it's not a complete lie, but girl, the side-eye she must have given him, it's giving cowardice. It's giving, I trust God with my future, but not with my present safety. And of course, Pharaoh's officials see her. They're like, yep, she's coming with us. And she gets taken into the palace. Abram? Out here getting paid in sheep, cattle, and donkeys for essentially pimping out his wife. the mess. But God wasn't having it. He sent some serious plagues on Pharaoh's house, and Pharaoh was like, "Bro, what is your problem? Why'd you lie to me?" And basically kicked them out of Egypt. A whole mess. See how he ignored that little warning in his spirit? That's why we don't silence our conscience just because the situation is scary, okay? Woo! If this gist is already giving, sis, you better like this video right now. Don't hoard the tea. Smash that like button and let's keep going. So, they get back to Canaan and years are passing. Years. Decades. The promise of a son is just hanging in the air, getting dustier and more unlikely with each season. Abram is getting richer. His flocks are huge. He's got servants for days. But his house is quiet. No pitter-patter of little feet, just the sound of sheep bleating. The tension between the promise and the reality must have been thick. You know that feeling when you're waiting on God for something and it just feels like radio silence? That was their entire life. At one point, Abram gets real with God. He's like, "Sovereign Lord, what can you give me since I remain childless? You have given me no children, so a servant in my household will be my heir." He's given up. He's planning his estate around his servant Eliezer. It's sad. But God doubles down. He takes him outside and is like, "Look up at the sky and count the stars. If indeed you can count them, so shall your offspring be." And the Bible says Abram believed the Lord and God credited it to him as righteousness. That's a key verse, girl. File that away. He believed. But then Sarai got an idea. A human solution to a divine promise. Always a dangerous combo. She comes to Abram and she's like, "Look, the Lord has kept me from having children, so go, sleep with my slave Hagar. Perhaps I can build a family through her." Now, let's be clear. This was a custom of the time. But just because it was a custom doesn't mean it was God's plan. This was a shortcut, a workaround. And shortcuts in God's plan always lead to detours through drama. Abram, instead of being like, "Honey, let's just pray on it," was like, "Bet." No pushback. He went along with the plan. He slept with Hagar, she got pregnant immediately, and the entire household dynamic went from peaceful to toxic in 0.5 seconds. Because the minute Hagar knew she was pregnant, she started looking down on Sarai. And can you blame her? One minute she's a servant, the next she's carrying the heir. Her value in that society just skyrocketed, but Sarai wasn't having it. She went to Abram and basically said, "This is your fault. I put my slave in your arms, and now that she's pregnant, she despises me. May the Lord judge between you and me." Abram, being the picture of conflict resolution, was like, "She is your slave. Do with her whatever you think best." He totally abdicated responsibility. So Sarai mistreated Hagar so badly that she ran away, pregnant and alone in the desert. But here's the first beautiful twist. God found Hagar in the wilderness. He saw her, the unseen Egyptian slave girl, and he gave her a promise about her son. He told her to name him Ishmael, which means God hears. Because God had heard her misery. He promised he would become a great nation too. It's a powerful reminder that even when we're caught in the middle of other people's messy decisions, God sees us. He hears our cries. Hagar goes back, has her son, Ishmael. And Abram is 86 years old. He's got a son. He's probably thinking, okay, cool, this is the promise. Ishmael is the guy. They settle in. 13 years pass. 13 years. The promise is seemingly fulfilled. Life is moving on. Then God shows up again, and he drops a bombshell. He changes Abram's name to Abraham, which means father of many nations. He changes Sarah's name to Sarah, princess. And then he says, "I will bless her and will surely give you a son by her. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him." Abraham's response? He fell face down and laughed. He said to himself, "Will a son be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah bear a child at the age of 90? He couldn't help it. The idea was so absurd, so hilarious, so utterly impossible that laughter was the only sane response. And he's like, oh, if only Ishmael might live under your blessing. He's trying to negotiate with God. Hey, this one right here, he's good. He's fine. Let's just use him. But God was like, nope. Sarah, your wife, will bear you a son, and you will call him Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him. Then God leaves, and not long after, 3 visitors show up at Abram's tent. He doesn't know it's the Lord and 2 angels. He just knows they're important guests, so he goes into full Middle Eastern hospitality mode. He's running around telling Sarah to quickly get 3 seahs of the finest flour and bake some bread. He's selecting a choice tender calf for the meat. This is a 5-star meal he's throwing together in the desert. They're eating, and one of them says, "Where is your wife Sarah?" "There, in the tent," Abram says. And then the visitor says, and I need you to imagine the casual, earth-shattering delivery of this line, "I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, will have a son." Now, Sarah was listening at the entrance of the tent, which was behind him, and she laughed. She laughed to herself, thinking, after I am worn out and my Lord is old, will I now have this pleasure? Then the Lord, because it was him, said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and say, 'Will I really have a child now that I'm old?' Is anything too hard for the Lord? I will return to you at the appointed time next year, and Sarah will have a son." Sarah, caught, was scared. She came out and was like, "I did not laugh." And God, with what I imagine was a knowing, gentle, but firm tone, said, "Yes, you did." Fast forward a year. God does what he said. Sarah gets pregnant at 90 years old. She conceives and gives birth to a son, and they name him Isaac, which means he laughs. Sarah said, "God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me." The shame of her barrenness was replaced with a joy so profound it became her son's name. Isaac grows. He's the apple of his father's eye, the living, breathing, walking testament to God's faithfulness. Ishmael's heir too, a teenager now. And at a party for Isaac, Sarah sees Ishmael mocking. The tension between the 2 women, the 2 sons, the 2 legacies boils over. Sarah tells Abraham, get rid of that slave woman and her son, for that woman's son will never share in the inheritance with my son Isaac. This distressed Abraham greatly. Ishmael was still his son. But God told him, listen to whatever Sarah tells you, for it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. So, with a heavy heart, Abraham sends Hagar and Ishmael away. God provides for them in the wilderness, and he makes Ishmael into a great nation, just as he promised. But Isaac is the son of the covenant, the promised one. Wait, quick pause. If you're nodding like, yes, girl, the family drama is real, drop a comment before you forget. What would you have done if you were Sarah or Hagar? Okay, back to the drama. So now we're caught up. Isaac is probably a young man, maybe in his teens or 20s. Abraham is over 100 years old. The promise is secure. Life is good. The trauma of the past is behind them. Then God speaks to Abraham again. And this time, the request makes no sense. It contradicts everything that came before. "Abraham, here I am," he replies. And God says, "Take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and go to the region of Moriah, sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you." Okay, cue the dramatic music stop. Your only son, not Ishmael, who was gone, Isaac, the one you love, the one you waited a century for, the one who is the living proof of my promise, the one through whom I said I would build nations. Take him and kill him as an offering to me. Sis, what? This is the moment our hook lives in, the sheer, unthinkable, catastrophic paradox of this command. God was asking Abraham to sacrifice the very thing he had been promised, to destroy the fulfillment of the covenant in the name of the one who made the covenant. Abraham's faith, which had been tested by waiting, was now being tested by doing, and the Bible gives us no record of his argument. No bargaining, no, but God, you said. He just got up early the next morning. He saddled his donkey. He took 2 servants and his son Isaac. He cut the wood for the burnt offering. And he went. The 3-day journey to Moriah must have been a silent, torturous nightmare. Every step was a step closer to obliterating his own future. Isaac, innocent, chattering away. Father, yes, my son, the fire and wood are here, but where's the lamb for the burnt offering? The question must have felt like a knife in Abraham's gut, but his answer is one of the most stunning statements of faith in all of history. He says, God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. He didn't know how, he just knew who. He knew the character of the God who makes promises. He was banking everything on the fact that the God who provided a son from a dead womb could somehow provide a solution on a mountain of death. They arrived. Abraham told the servants, "Stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship, and then we will come back to you." Did you catch that? We will come back to you. This man believed that even if he went through with it, God could raise Isaac from the dead. His faith was that powerful, that defiant in the face of impossibility. So Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac. He himself carried the fire and the knife, and the 2 of them went on together. Isaac carrying the wood on his back up the hill, Abraham carrying the fire and the knife. They reached the place God had told him about. Abraham built an altar. He arranged the wood. He knew how to do this. But this time his hands were shaking. His heart was pounding in his ears. Then he turned to his son, his beloved son, the son of the promise, and he bound him. He tied up Isaac and laid him on the altar, on top of the wood. Can you imagine the confusion in Isaac's eyes? The trust? The dawning horror? He was strong enough to carry the wood. He could have fought his ancient father, but he didn't. He submitted. Abraham reached out his hand. He took the knife. He raised it high into the air, poised to slay his son. The sun glinted off the blade. The world held its breath. This was it. The promise was about to die by the hand of the promise keeper. And then a voice, a shout from heaven. "Abraham! Abraham!" His arm froze mid-air. "Here I am," he choked out. And the angel of the Lord said, "Do not lay a hand on the boy. Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." Sis, the relief, the instant, overwhelming knees give out beneath you relief. The knife clattered to the ground. Abraham looked up, and there in a thicket he saw a ram caught by its horns, a substitute, a provision. He untied his son, his hands fumbling with the ropes, probably pulling him into the tightest embrace of his life, both of them sobbing. Then he took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. He named that place, "The Lord Will Provide." And to this day it is said, "On the mountain of the Lord it will be provided." The angel of the Lord called to Abraham from heaven a second time and said, "I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this and have not withheld from me your son, your only son, I will surely bless you. Through your offspring, all nations on earth will be blessed because you have obeyed me." They went down the mountain together, father and son, the promise preserved and redeemed. Okay, girl, let's decompress from that emotional roller coaster. Because this story isn't just ancient history, it's packed with truths that can scalding tea for our lives today. God's tests often involve our treasures. God didn't ask Abraham to sacrifice just anything. He asked for the best thing, the thing he loved most, the thing that, if we're honest, he might have loved even more than God. Our Isaac might be a relationship, a career goal, a dream, our finances, our reputation. God's test is always, do you trust me with this? Do you love me more than the blessing I gave you? This story proves that our deepest attachments must always be surrendered to God's sovereignty. Holding on too tight to anything, even a good gift, can turn it into an idol. Obedience often precedes understanding. Abraham did not get a PowerPoint presentation explaining the why. The command made zero sense. Yet, he moved in radical obedience. So many of us are stuck because we're waiting for God to show us the entire map before we take the first step. Faith is taking that first step in the dark, trusting the one who called you will light the path as you go. Your obedience in the fog is a declaration that you trust the character of God more than you need clarity on your circumstances. On the mountain, he will provide. Abraham's statement, "God himself will provide the lamb," is the anchor of this whole story. He didn't know how, but he knew God was a provider. And God didn't provide until Abraham was in the place of total surrender, knife in hand. Sometimes God's provision doesn't show up until we've reached the absolute end of ourselves and our own resources, but it always shows up. It might be a last-second miracle, it might be a ram in a thicket, but Jehovah Jireh, our provider, is faithful. Your moment of greatest sacrifice can become the moment of God's greatest provision. God's promise is always bigger than our perception. Abraham thought the promise was about Isaac, but God's promise was about himself, his faithfulness, his power, his redemptive plan for the entire world. We get so hyper-focused on the specific blessing in our hand that we forget it's just a vessel for the blesser's glory. When God asks us to surrender something, it's not to take it away cruelly. It's to show us that he is the source, and he can be trusted with the outcome far more than we can. Whew, girl, this tea was too hot, right? A century-long wait, a baby drama, a runaway servant, and a last-second sacrifice swap? Only in the Bible. If your jaw is on the floor, if your heart is racing, if you felt every bit of that tension on that mountain, then you know this just hit different. If you loved this dramatic retelling of Abraham's story, do me a solid. Tap that like button. Let me know the tea was served properly. Tell me in the comments, what part left you shook? Was it Abraham's quiet obedience? Sarah's messy plan with Hagar? That moment the knife went up? I live for your comments. Subscribe to Bible Girlies so you never ever miss the gist. We've got so many more stories to spill, from Esther's royal glow-up to David's messy saga. The tea is always brewing over here. Turn on that bell so you're notified the second we drop a new video. Because next Bible tea, it's about a handsome king, a forbidden bath on a roof, and a plot to murder a loyal soldier. It's even crazier. Until next time, my gorgeous Bible girlies, Remember, no matter what mountain you're climbing, Jehovah Jireh has already provided the ram. Trust him. Love you lots. Bye.